Today I'm going to show you how to make a fairly tidy, depending on your stitching, V-neck in something. I'm making scrubs, as you can see. So this is an old duvet cover that somebody's given us, and we're going to make a V-neck scrubs top in it. I've already made the bias binding by the continuous strips method that I did in another clip a little while ago. So you can see I've got plenty of bias binding, which I'm going to use to do this. I've made it thick-ish because I'm going to double it as I put it on. So if I show you, it is 2 inches. Oh no, I fib actually. I think it's 2.5 inches I made it. Yep, 2.5 inches. I'm doing a few of these tops, so I've made more than enough. So I've got the bias made already, continuous strips method. The first thing I've done on this, I've done it in pen so you can see it a bit better, is I've marked the sewing line in pen. You can do this in pencil, whatever, and you can see that I have stitched right down to that cross, needle in, turned, and then gone back on myself, just enough to reinforce the area. Because what I'm going to do now, if I show you my sharp scissors, is I am going to, sorry, I'm trying to see, I'm going to snip right into that point there. Right, there you go. So you've got the stitches there to reinforce it. If you've got really delicate fabric, then you might put a little bit of interfacing, something like this. I like this woven but iron on. You can see it's a bit shiny on the iron on side interfacing, so I could have used a little bit there, but this is quite a firm fabric. It's a polycotton, so I've left it as it is. So I'm going to pause there for a minute whilst I join the shoulders. I'm going to join and then sew down both shoulders, and then I'll show you the next bit. So you can see that I've pinned the bias on now, so the bias is double folded. I've got raw edges together, and then what I've done is I've pinned the raw edges together, and I've got the bias just sticking out past the V, so that bit just comes in where I've snipped it, and then I've pinned the edges together, having folded the bias all the way round. Now you'll notice where it's straight on this bit, the pins are fairly well spaced, but as we get to the back of the neck, I've got more pins, and what I'm doing is I've got, because we're coming round the corner, can you see here, I've got a bit of ease coming round, but I'm pinning and controlling the fabric where I'm going to be stitching. So although you've got these bubbles here, where I'm actually stitching is nice and flat, and that's the way I've worked it round the corner. So we've got a bit of a bubble here, and then when I press it, this folded edge, I'll give it a bit of steam and I'll stretch it out a bit so it lies. Then the back of the neck, pins are wider, and again we get to the corner, and I've got more pins, and I'm pinning where I'm going to stitch. This pattern's got quite a small seam allowance, it's only 1 centimetre, so the pins are a bit nearer to the edge than I would normally do. Then again, this bit's nice and straight, so there's not so many pins. And then when we come to the end, I've done exactly the same as I did on the other side. We've got the bias strip extending by about, I haven't measured it, but I'd say it's probably about 1.5 inches. And we've got the raw edges together until this bit where we snipped in, where of course it comes in. So if I just show you, I'm working with this flat at the moment, so I've stitched the shoulders, and because this is going to be quite well worn and washed, what I've done is I've zigzagged the seam and then I've stitched it flat so that it should launder quite well. But I haven't done the side seams yet, so it just makes it all a bit easier to work with. So we can actually pull it out. And here we have it. These overlap at the moment, and this is actually what they're going to do on the back. They'll overlap that. I've got the fold down here, and I've got the pins here, more around the edge. Now you could tack it at this point. I have to say I'm quite a lazy sewer, so I won't tack it. But what I'll do is I will be taking the pins out as I get to them. Just because it's not great for your machine if you go over a pin. And you can see it at the back here. It's looking quite neat at the moment, where these overlap, where I've snipped. And I'm going to start stitching about here. No, actually I fib. I'm going to start right on the corner, stitch all the way round very slowly and steadily. Then I'm going to stitch back right to the point, then I'll pull the stitches through and tie them off with a tailor's knot. So I'll just pause whilst I do that and I'll come back to you in a sec. So you can see now where I've stitched around the edges. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to press it. I'll snip into this back edge so that it lies nicely, and when I press it, this edge here I'm going to steam and stretch a bit so it will sit nicely. And if we look at the right side, what you'll see at the moment is we've got these two bits here coming together, and then when they turn in, they will then actually, one will go on top, one will go underneath, and they will lie really neatly. It's pulling a little bit at the moment, but that's because I haven't pressed it yet. But once I've pressed it, that will all, in fact it's yeah, you can see how this is going to go really quite nicely, but first I need to press it, so that's what I'll do now. And there you have it. So as you can see, I've stretched this bias as I've been pressing it to help it go round those curves. We've tucked the bias under here, and our V is quite neat. It's a little bit there that still needs to go under, but that's not bad at all. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to top stitch it into place so it will be nicely washable. I'll go around the edge here, and the same here. You've got no raw edges showing. It's all nice and smooth and flat, and because we haven't handled this V too much, it hasn't misshapen. One of the difficulties doing a V-neck is because this is on the bias, it can be really easy to stretch it out of shape, but you can see that's all lying nice and flat and looking really quite tidy. So I'm going to continue now. I've got sleeves and pockets, and then it will be done. Thank you very much.